It was the kind of night where the silence feels heavier than noise. The kind of silence that makes you notice the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock, even your own heartbeat. I was halfway through a bottle of cheap bourbon when the phone rang. 2:14 a.m. The first thought that crossed my mind wasn't panic, it was dread. Not the loud kind that hits you in the gut, but the slow, creeping one that whispers, "Something's gone wrong," and you can't stop it. "Luke?" The voice on the other end was brittle, like glass ready to shatter. "Rachel," my brother Nate's wife. She didn't sound like herself. "What happened?" I asked. For a moment, all I heard was breathing, short, ragged, desperate. Then the words came tumbling out like stones. "There was an accident. The car. It went off the bridge. They found it in the river. Nate didn't make it." My hand tightened around the phone until the plastic creaked. "What do you mean? Did they pull him out?" "He's gone, Luke. He's gone." The world narrowed. The sound of my own pulse drowned out everything. I remember standing up, knocking the bottle over, watching bourbon spill across the table like blood. And then nothing. Just the sound of Rachel sobbing on the other end, saying my name over and over. When I finally spoke, my voice didn't sound like mine. "I'll be there in 2 hours." I drove through the night in silence. No radio, no thoughts worth listening to. Just the road, slick and black under the rain. When I reached the hospital, the parking lot was empty except for one car. Her car. Inside, the fluorescent lights were cruel, bright enough to see every tear, every hollow stare. Rachel sat in a corner of the waiting room, wrapped in a hospital blanket, eyes red and swollen. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. "They said it was quick," she whispered. "They said he probably didn't feel—" "Don't!" My voice cracked, low and rough. "Don't finish that." She didn't. There's nothing you can say when someone tells you your brother is gone. Nothing that doesn't sound like a lie. All you can do is stand there, numb, as the world shrinks into a single moment that refuses to pass. That night, I stood by the river until dawn, staring at the water that took him. It moved slow, lazy, indifferent, like it didn't care what it had stolen. 2 days later, I went to the house. It was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your chest ache. The smell hit first. Stale coffee, old laundry, and grief. Always grief. It seeps into walls, lingers in corners, hides in the air. "Uncle Luke." The voice was small, fragile. Sam, Nate's son, 9 years old. Same dark eyes, same crooked smile. The one that used to drive girls crazy when Nate was younger. Only now it was gone. He stood on the staircase holding a toy car in one hand. I hadn't seen him since his birthday last year. "Hey, champ," I said softly. "You've grown." He shrugged. "You look old." That almost made me laugh. Almost. I wanted to hug him, but something in his stance, stiff, distant, stopped me. "You hungry?" I asked. He shook his head. "You want to talk?" Another shake. "Okay, no talking. Just company." I headed into the kitchen, rummaging through cupboards until I found bread, cheese, and a dusty skillet. Grilled cheese, the one thing I could make without burning the house down. He watched from the doorway, silent. I burned the first sandwich, muttered a curse under my breath, and made another. This time he smiled. Barely, but it was there. I slid the plate toward him. "Go on." He stared at it for a long time before finally taking a bite. For a moment, the kitchen didn't feel like a tomb. That night, I found him sitting in Nate's office, staring at the desk. "You okay, bud?" He didn't answer, just kept tracing his fingers over a framed photo. Nate in his army uniform, grinning like an idiot, arms slung around me. Dad said you used to get in trouble a lot, Sam said finally. Yeah, I admitted. He wasn't wrong. He said you were the brave one. I swallowed hard. He said that? Sam nodded. Said you always jumped first. Yeah, well, I forced a smile. Sometimes that means you fall first too. He looked up, eyes wet. He's not really gone, right? I didn't know how to answer, so I said the only thing that felt true. He's gone, kid, but he's not gone from you. You hear me? He nodded slowly. Mom says he's watching. I wished I could believe that. 3 weeks passed like years. Rachel barely left her room. I heard her crying sometimes, muffled through the door, but she never let me in. Sam went to school, came home, did his homework without being told. Too perfect, too quiet. Kids shouldn't be that quiet. One night I found him sitting in the garage. Lights off, coat still on, just sitting. You'll freeze out here, I said. He didn't answer. I flipped the switch. The light buzzed to life, revealing Nate's old fishing rods leaning in the corner. Sam's eyes were on them. You like fishing? I asked. Dad was going to teach me this summer, he said softly. He said we'd go to the river. I sat beside him on the cold concrete floor. We still can. He shook his head. You're not him. That one hit harder than I expected. No, I said quietly. I'm not. He looked at me then, eyes dark and sharp. Then why weren't you here when he was alive? There it was, the question that gutted me. I could have told him the truth, that Nate and I hadn't talked much in the last few years, that life got in the way, that we fought over stupid things and neither of us was stubborn enough to say sorry first. But I didn't. Instead, I said, sometimes when you grow up, you think you have more time than you do. Turns out, you don't. He didn't reply. But when I left the garage, I could feel his eyes following me. Not with anger, but with something worse. Disappointment. Lucas had always thought the quietest places were the safest. The river behind his brother's house changed that. It whispered at night soft, low murmurs that sounded like a voice half drowned in regret. It had been a month since Nate's funeral, and though Lucas told himself he'd come back to help the kids heal, he knew it was more than that. Something about the way his brother died didn't make sense. A fall from the old scaffolding behind the barn. Nate had built that thing himself. He wasn't careless. Sam, Nate's son, had started wandering toward the river after sunset. At first, Lucas thought it was grief. Kids find strange places to hide from pain. But last week, he saw Sam talking to someone. There was no one there. Sam, Lucas said the next morning at breakfast, pouring cereal for the boy, you've been out late. You know that's not safe. Sam's spoon clattered against the bowl, his eyes too old for 11 lifted. I was just talking to Dad. Lucas froze. What do you mean? Sam shrugged. He said he misses us. He said not to trust her. Lucas felt something twist inside him. Who's her, Sam? But Sam just stuffed a spoonful of cereal into his mouth and looked away. That night, Lucas sat by the river. The air was colder there, filled with the smell of wet moss and rust. He waited. The water rippled, moonlight cutting through like shattered glass. Then he heard it, a whisper, a voice so low it was almost breath. Lucas! He turned sharply, scanning the trees. Nate? Nothing, just the river, sliding away like time itself. He almost laughed at himself, but his heart was pounding too hard. Maybe grief makes fools of all men. Maybe he was losing his mind like Rachel said he was. But when he went back inside, Sam was standing at the top of the stairs, watching him with wide eyes. Did you hear him too? The boy asked. 2 days later, Lucas went into the barn. The place was half collapsed, a skeleton of wood and iron that smelled of oil and smoke. He wasn't sure what he was looking for, maybe proof that Nate's death wasn't what it seemed. In the far corner, behind a stack of rusted tools, he found a small metal box. Inside it was a black leather notebook. Nate's handwriting filled the first page. If something happens to me, it won't be an accident. Rachel knows more than she's saying. And if Sam starts talking to the man at the river, stop him. Lucas sat there for a long time, staring at those words, feeling the ground tilt beneath him. He flipped through more pages, notes about finances, sketches of the river, and something that looked like coordinates. Rachel had told everyone Nate fell while repairing the barn roof, but the ladder hadn't been broken. The safety rope was cut. He went back to the house. Rachel was sitting on the porch, a cigarette burning between her fingers. Her eyes were red, but not from crying. "Did you go to the barn again?" she asked quietly. Lucas nodded. "Yeah." Her lips twitched. "You shouldn't. It's not good to hold on to ghosts." He studied her face. "Did Nate tell you about the journal?" Rachel's head snapped up. "What journal?" "The one he hid. He wrote that if anything happened to him..." She cut him off sharply. Don't start this." "You're hiding something, Rachel." Her eyes hardened. "You think I killed my husband? Your brother?" She let out a bitter laugh. "You always thought you knew better than him." Lucas clenched his jaw. "I think you know how he died, and I think Sam does too." She crushed her cigarette and stood. "Then maybe you should ask the river. Everyone else does." And she walked inside, leaving him in the silence of his own doubt. Lucas couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house sounded like footsteps. Every gust of wind carried a whisper that sounded like Nate's name. At 3 a.m., he heard the front door open. He grabbed his flashlight and followed. Outside, the world was silver and quiet. Sam was walking barefoot toward the river, his pajamas dragging in the dirt. "Sam!" Lucas hissed, jogging after him. The boy didn't stop. He stepped into the shallow edge of the river, staring at the black surface. "He's here," he murmured. "He wants to show you." Lucas grabbed his shoulder, but Sam pointed down into the water. "Look." For a moment, Lucas saw nothing. Then a reflection, not his, not Sam's. A man's face beneath the surface, pale and still, eyes open. Lucas stumbled back. What the hell?" But when he blinked, the image was gone. The water rippled like nothing had been there at all. Sam looked up at him. "He says you have to finish what he started." Lucas knelt down, gripping the boy's shoulders. "Sam, listen to me. You didn't see anything. It's late. You need to forget this." Sam frowned. "You don't believe him either, do you?" "Believe who?" "The man at the river." And then, without another word, Sam turned and walked back toward the house. Lucas stood there alone, trembling, his flashlight flickering out. He didn't tell Rachel what happened. Not yet. The next morning he went into town trying to make sense of the coordinates from Nate's journal. They led to a place a few miles north, an abandoned quarry, long filled with rainwater and shadow. Something told him that was where it all began, and maybe where it would all end. The road to the quarry was a broken scar through the hills, cracked asphalt, half swallowed by weeds and silence. Lucas hadn't been there since he was a teenager, back when he and Nate would sneak out with flashlights, daring each other to get closer to the water's edge. It had always felt haunted even then, the kind of place that seemed to breathe when the wind passed through it. Now it was worse. Fog clung to the ground, thick as smoke. The air smelled like rust and rain-soaked stone. Lucas parked his truck at the gate and walked the rest of the way, following the coordinates from Nate's journal until he reached a clearing overlooking the water. The surface was still, too still, like glass stretched over something waiting underneath. He opened the journal again. Nate's handwriting trembled on the page. "The quarry holds what I couldn't bury. If Sam ever hears the whispers, it's because they found a way out." Lucas frowned. They, not it. He looked around. Rocks, dead brush, an old crane half collapsed into the mud. No footprints, no signs anyone had been here for years. Then faintly he heard something, a splash. He turned toward the water. Ripples spread outward, slow and deliberate. Someone was out there. "Hello?" His voice echoed across the quarry. "Who's there?" No answer, just the wind, pushing the fog closer. He took a step forward, then another. His boot slipped, and he caught himself against a jagged rock. That's when he saw it, a flash of metal wedged between two stones. He knelt down and pulled. It was a phone, waterlogged, cracked, but still recognizable. He turned it over. The wallpaper was Nate's face. Lucas took the phone home that night. He stayed up cleaning it, trying to get it to charge. It took hours before it flickered on, screen dim and glitching. Most files were corrupted, but one video survived. He played it. The screen showed Nate sitting in the barn, looking exhausted, dirt on his hands. He spoke in a whisper, glancing over his shoulder every few seconds. "If you're watching this, Luke, it means she finally did it. Rachel's been talking to someone, not someone alive. She says he's helping her keep me safe, but it's not Nate's voice she hears by the river. It's his, and he wants Sam." Lucas froze. "What the hell are you talking about, Nate?" Nate leaned closer to the camera. "There's something buried at the quarry. If you dig near the crane, you'll find it. Don't bring Sam. Don't trust her. Whatever you do, don't listen to the voice in the water." The video cut off. Lucas sat there shaking, the glow of the screen fading into darkness. He thought of Rachel's words. Everyone asked the river. Maybe Nate hadn't fallen. Maybe he'd been pushed or pulled. Rachel didn't come home that night. Lucas woke to find Sam asleep on the couch, clutching a photo of Nate. The morning light cut through the blinds in pale stripes, and for a moment everything looked normal, domestic, peaceful. Then he saw the footprints, muddy, small, leading from the back door to the hallway, to the river. He followed them outside. The fog hadn't lifted, and the river was louder than usual, slapping against the rocks like it was angry. Rachel was standing at the edge, her nightgown soaked to the knees, hair hanging loose and dripping. "Rachel!" Lucas shouted, running to her. "What are you doing?" She turned slowly, eyes glassy, pupils blown wide. "He's here, Lucas. He's so close." He grabbed her arm. "You're scaring the kids. Come inside." She shook her head. "You don't understand. Nate isn't gone. He's with him, and he wants Sam to join them." Lucas tightened his grip. "Stop it. Nate's dead. You need help." Rachel's mouth twitched into a smile that wasn't hers. "You'll see soon enough." And before he could react, she broke free and stepped into the river. The water swallowed her legs, then her waist. Lucas waded in after her, grabbing her wrist, but the current pulled harder than it should have. It felt alive, like hands dragging him down. He yanked her out with everything he had. They both fell onto the shore, coughing and gasping. Rachel looked at him, eyes wild. "He's waiting at the quarry. That's where it ends." Then she went limp. By sunset, Lucas had made up his mind. He left Sam with their neighbor and drove back to the quarry. The fog was thicker now, swallowing the headlights. He parked near the crane and grabbed a shovel from the truck bed. He found the spot Nate mentioned, a patch of ground where the dirt looked freshly turned. He started to dig. One scoop, two. Then the shovel hit something solid. He knelt and brushed the dirt away. A box, wooden, heavy. Inside, papers, photos, and something wrapped in cloth. He unfolded it and found a small rusted necklace, a child's locket. Inside was a photo of a boy, maybe 8 years old, with Nate's eyes. He didn't recognize him. He flipped through the papers, old police reports, birth certificates. One name kept appearing, Samuel N. Gray, deceased. Lucas's blood ran cold. That was Nate's first son, the one Rachel said died before Sam was born. He heard movement behind him, the soft crunch of gravel. He turned. Rachel stood there, her face pale under the moonlight. "I told you he was waiting," she whispered. "He wants his son back." "Rachel, what the hell is this?" Lucas demanded. "You told us he died. You lied." Tears welled in her eyes. "He drowned in this quarry. Nate never forgave me. He thought I pushed him. But it wasn't me, Lucas. It was him." The ground trembled. The water rippled violently, though there was no wind. Rachel took a step closer to the edge. "He's angry because you're keeping Sam from him." Lucas grabbed her arm. "We're leaving. Now." She smiled faintly. "You can't run from water. It always finds a way." And with that, the earth beneath her collapsed. She screamed as she fell into the black water below. Lucas shouted her name, but the river swallowed her whole. Days passed in fragments. Police, questions, search parties that found nothing. Rachel was gone. The quarry was sealed off. The kids were taken to Lucas temporarily, while the courts decided what came next. Sam didn't speak for 3 days. Then one morning, Lucas found him sitting by the river again, holding Nate's locket. "She said he wasn't bad," Sam murmured. "He just wants to come home." Lucas knelt beside him. "That wasn't your dad in the water, Sam. That thing isn't him." Sam shook his head. "He said he'll stop calling if you finish what Uncle Nate started." Lucas hesitated. "And what's that?" "Let him rest." That night, Lucas drove to the quarry one last time. He brought a can of gasoline and Nate's journal. Standing at the edge, he read the final line Nate had written. "The river keeps what it's owed. I just hope it doesn't take the boy too." Lucas dropped the book into the pit, poured the gasoline, and struck a match. The flames rose high, reflected in the still water below. The smoke carried something away, something that sounded like a sigh. When he returned home, Sam was asleep on the couch. For the first time in weeks, he wasn't frowning. The next morning, the river was silent. Months later, Lucas received a letter from the county. The quarry had been drained for safety inspection. They found 2 bodies, Rachel and a child's skeleton, estimated to have died over a decade ago. No one could explain why they were holding hands. Lucas folded the letter, went outside, and watched Sam playing by the yard. The boy laughed, real, light, alive, and for the first time, the river didn't whisper. It was just water. He closed his eyes, letting the sun hit his face. Maybe some ghosts don't need to be fought. Maybe they just need to be heard.